Our dear viewers and listeners, for today, this morning is going to be cloudy over the capital, central and parts of the western north. We expect light rain and drizzle. By afternoon, we expect the sun to break through, taking it to partly cloudy across the 16 region. Late afternoon into the evening, we expect some areas in the eastern region, the northern portions of Ashanti, and then Bono, East Bono, North, and then its environs, we expect some isolated cases of rain and thunder. Our brethren over the north to those over Savannah area, we having some 40% chance of rain and thunder for them. The water lake is pretty cool this morning for fishing activities. And so late afternoon, where we are expecting the rain and thundercloud formations around the eastern region portion, so they have to be careful. The state of the sea is still rough. There's the time for upwelling, so they have to be extra careful on the sea because the conditions are not uniform. So some areas are likely to be dangerous. So we are cautioning them that they should be on a lookout. They should not take anything for granted. They should be on a lookout so that we don't hear any capsizing of boats or any sort of disaster over the sea. They should be vigilant. If they need be, they just retreat, go home, relax, and then go back the following day when the conditions will be a bit stable for them. Temperatures will be also a bit uniform, 30, 31 across the 16 region. Then tomorrow morning, before we bring you an update, we expect some fog patches over those that will be traveling to Kumasi, Sunyani, those that will be going to Ebre, Kuforidua, those that will be going to Mankasim, Takrady, and its environs. So they need to be extra careful. So this is going to be for today.
Thank you so much for that update, Felicity.
You are most welcome.
And that was Felicity Ahafenyo, chief forecaster with the Ghana Met, letting us know what to expect for those of us in the capital. She says some light rain and very cloudy conditions.
3FM Sunrise.
Sunrise on 3FM.
Well, let's get stuck straight in, shall we? Samuel, good morning to you.
Good morning, Miss Helen William, the queen of the... So after the queen forecaster, I'm here with the queen of the morning.
They say flattery will get you everywhere. I have to compliment you on this choice of shirts this morning. It really complements your skin tone, you know. There's what they call color theory.
Yeah.
You're supposed to match, certain colors with your skin tone. I think today you have absolutely nailed it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm out brightness, no.
Allah.
Come on.
You.
We have some papers in front of us. We'll run through the headlines and then we'll get into the details. The Ghanaian Times this morning has this to say. MPs unanimously back LGBTQ plus bill, recommend passage of 25 clause bill to prescribe same-sex relationship and others. And things got very heated in the House of Parliament as these discussions ensued. We'll get into that, of course, as we proceed. Ghana, US must stand up against corruption. That's coming from the US ambassador. Also, NAFSA members, NAFSA members, spent second night picketing at NAFCO, demand payment of some 270 million cedis owed them. And yesterday we touched on the issue of the food suppliers who have not been paid for some over 2 years now.
Yeah.
And they say they are going to be staying at the doorstep of NAFCO until monies are paid. They said they'd rather have, they'll probably have a better night's sleep there than at home, where creditors are on their neck and
Chasing
the pressure
them for their money.
is so much, chasing them for their money. We'll get into that. Ghana to build 1,000 electric vehicle charging stations in 5 years. The Supreme newspaper, I remain best candidate to break the AIDS, Alan assures delegates. Napo defamers apologize to him for lying over busy internet contract award. And Ghana Gas goes big on energy transition. NPP excludes North excludes Asin North for MENA in orphan constituencies nomination opening. And then lastly, the Business Finder, mining. Ghana needs a clear vision for broader economic growth. That's coming from a tax expert. Republic Bank family plans way forward. Ghana Tourism Development Project. World Bank Lords Dr. Awal.
Okay, so on the front page of the Daily Guide, drama over anti-LGBTQ as MPs debate bill. We have the pictures of Osla Usu Akofo and Ibrahim Motala Mohammed, and also have evangelist, prophetess, jailed 12 years for stealing 265,000 cedis. Baumia starts Ashanti tour, and then MPP opens parliamentary nominations for orphan constituencies. Also on the front page of the king of the Daily Graphic is here. Okay, so 2 men jailed, Daily Graphic, 2 men jailed 24 years, for killing 90-year-old woman. NHIA pays 367 million to 4,500 facilities. You have the picture of Dr. Bernard Okoboy, CEO of NHIA there, and also Aplao Hospital. Is it Aplao? Is it Aplao? Sure. Aplao Hospital. 2 nurses hot. Cash and carry kills patient. And then Ministry approves Pagan Energy's oil field development plan.
All right. Well, let's say good morning to William before we dive into
Sir William, good
the
morning.
issues. Yes. So let's get stuck straight into it. The center spread of the Ghanaian Times has the story of NAFSA members spending their second night picketing at the premises of NAFCO. Yesterday, we started that conversation on 3FM Sunrise. Let's get into the details. Members of the National Food Suppliers Association, NAFSA, spent the second night at the premises of the National Food Buffer Company in Accra to press home their demand for the government to pay them 270 million cedis as 2 years arrears owed them for the supply of foodstuffs to various senior high schools. When the Ghanaian Times visited the NAFCO Cantonment's head office in Accra yesterday as of 11 a.m., the suppliers who had come from different parts of the country were seen lying on the ground. Others were carrying placards with inscriptions: "Banks are auctioning our properties. Our creditors are sending us to court. Mr. President, please order buffer stock to pay us. Pay us our money for peace to prevail. Enough of your deceit and intimidation." The premises were also littered with cooking stoves, cooking utensils, mattresses, mats to sleep on. In fact, they brought everything is there. They said they are not leaving the premises until they get paid. An effective way to go about it, because the conversation seems to have yielded nil
There's
results.
this saying that if you want people to understand you, you have to speak their language. So if you don't speak a language that the person understands, it will be difficult for the person to comply or do as you want. And it's unfortunate. Aside the fact that they are owing their bankers or creditors and they are chasing them. One thing I know is that when a government delays in paying the money that the government owes the contractors, there's something called delay payment. So if, let's say, the contract sum was 1 million Ghana cedis and you delay in paying, it will gather some more interest and you have to pay to that contractor. But unfortunately, because the contractor will still depend on government for more contracts, they are not able to chase or force the government to pay the delay payment. So they don't even take that one up, and they rather suffer. But it's very important that government find ways and means to pay. The other time when this issue came up, we interviewed Dr. Apak. We interviewed the NAFCO, and they assured that some money has been received and they are going to pay them. And it's past 2 years now, and you are still owing them. It's not fair. I think that we need to find money at all costs to pay them. Else, the free SHS is going to suffer. Because the NAFCO, they have been the ones who have been supplying food when they were not even owed that much.
And in fact, the free SHS is already suffering. It's already suffering. Okay. And we have a front row seat to, I don't want to call it the demise because that's too harsh a word, but with everything that is going on, really and truly, that serious conversation about restructuring this policy has to be had. Mr. Hughes, good morning to you.
Good morning.
We are being very good. We're being very stubborn about free SHS.
I just want to go back a bit and also look at the school feeding caterers. They still have not been paid in full, and we all know the troubles that their children had. 5 weeks and more without food until they vacated.
That's right.
And now we are here again with these ones. And they just went on strike just around the same time that the school feeding caterers went on strike. What really happened to the approvals that were done in Parliament on their behalf? Where did the monies go? Who had the monies and who spent it on what? Because if our representatives in Parliament approve of cash in respect of food that must be procured, and the food is procured indeed, and then the cash is released, but the cash is not paid to those who have to receive those monies, then there's a problem. So who got the cash? Who released the cash? Who's keeping the cash? Who chopped the cash?
Who chopped the cash?
Is it? I mean, it doesn't. For me, it doesn't make sense that we say we want to, like as a Serba said, we say we want to encourage enrollment. We want to encourage children to stay in school.
That's right.
We want to encourage, teaching and learning. And at the heart of it, which is the feeding, which most of the kids come to school in order to enjoy and to stay in school, we're not doing the best we can to make sure that they have that. What are we doing, really? What are we doing?
Well,
there's textbook hunger, there's electricity hunger, there's classroom hunger, there's furniture hunger, and there's proper food hunger.
It's obvious that there's been a lot of financial ill planning,
Right.
when it comes to government policies, because almost all the areas of the economy, we have the same story. When we go to the agri sector, this planting for food and jobs facing problems because of lack of funds to buy fertilizers to take around, and we're also looking at education. We have food supply issues.
That's
When
right.
it comes to the energy sector, we are having to pay billions that we owe power supply. Just this morning, we are hearing that the West African gas pipeline, they are cutting supply to Ghana because of same issue. When we go to the health sector, we are owing. All the areas of the economy, the government is owing heavily because they promise heavily and they are not able to deliver. All the free things that they said, they have challenges because, as I said yesterday, you cannot give what you don't have.
That's right.
And I'm wondering how leaders could sit in cabinet and decide to roll out policies when there's no serious financial consideration. Because that's the bottom line. Everything that we do in the economy is money.
Yeah.
Bottom line, cash flow. Because even if you go and say that Ghana is leading in cocoa exports or gold exports, and the bottom line, how much of it is coming into our coffers? You understand what I'm saying?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
if we are not able to quantify how much we have as our own in the economy, and then we go ahead to just promise things, this is what happens. Because if you are going to promise free SHS, and the food component is free, book component is free, you are even giving free uniforms. When headmasters were soliciting for funds from other sectors, you sometimes suspend them on accusation that they are undermining the policy and so on and so forth. So I'm saying that if we are doing, even this is simple economics, and the meaning of economics, as we all know, is just home management. And I mean, if you bring it to your own personal economy, the principles are the same. So how can we look at this low ebb where we have pensioners over 70 years picketing, and now we have our mothers sleeping, and nobody, not the government spokesperson is saying anything to these women, not the PRO, if they have any at the buffer stock, saying anything to these women, nobody from the Agri Ministry, from the Education Ministry. And so what are we doing to ourselves? Almost every month or every quarter we have a group picketing. So it tells the government that they got it all wrong with a lot of the policies that they put on the table, especially when there was no financial consideration in how we were going to.
But would they agree? Would they agree?
It's not about you disagreeing. It's the obvious is there. Everybody is saying because they are not governing in a vacuum.
Yeah.
They are ruling a group of people.
Right.
So if what we are saying you are not listening, that's fine. But everything is on the ground. Today, when you go to the premises of the Buffer Stock Company Limited, you will see the evidence of government's ineptitude when it comes to financial planning. It's a fact. When you go to ECG and you go to the IPPs, you will see it there. So it is not like we are just assuming things, or it's a phantom, or it's just imagination. It's a mirage. We are just saying things. We are hallucinating. These are things that are on the ground. So whether they will listen or not, it is neither here nor there.
For me, the attitude of assigns of the government, whether official or unofficial, who are neck deep into their partisanship, who will come at you because you mentioned some of these issues, is in itself a disincentive to many citizens speaking up. I mean, I get people on the sidelines every day, every single day. I have people 60, 70-year-olds who walk here. They see Mr. Head of security. They talk to him. They say they want to talk to me. Sometimes they leave a note. He always will tell them to, leave a little note so he can bring it to me. And you listen to them, and they're talking about the basic things that were supposed to have been done that have not been done, and how they are afraid to speak up because people will insult them. How they're afraid to speak up because they think that their lives will be in danger. People will target them, and we are no excuse. I mean, people target us all the time. People insult us all the time. People actually say that Charlie Michina, and all of that. And I say, well, Uchima Bemdeng. What else can you do? You kill me like a Swale or what? So sorry. So the effrontery to do what is not right. And to want to shut people down from complaining that what you told us is not what you are doing is in itself very, very backward to begin with. You say you do A, B, C, and D, and then you fail to do C and D. You have just done A, or maybe just B. You have not done A, C, and D. And then when the beneficiaries of those projects are complaining, you say, why are you complaining? Shut up. Is it fair?
One last one here in the Ghanaian Times before we wrap this up. Seminar to discuss negative impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict on Africa held. A high-level seminar to discuss the negative impact of the Russia-Ukraine conflict on the African continent and devise sustainable solutions to address the matter was yesterday held by the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. The seminar also afforded participants the opportunity to propose strategies and sustainable measures to address the negative impact of the ongoing conflict on the African continent. But 1 year has passed since the Russia-Ukraine conflict erupted, and we know that for government, at least, it's been the bane of their existence. It's caused us a lot of trouble. Everything has sort of gone back to the Russia-Ukraine war. And I think there's no denying that war has had an impact on economies and countries both near and far. I think where we want the conversation to evolve beyond this, how do we become the kind of country that can withstand external shocks? Because other countries have also experienced this Russia-Ukraine war and found themselves on the other side without burdening their citizens with DDEP and high inflation and excessive taxes and all of that. But I think it's worth also acknowledging that the conflict has had an impact, but we want to move beyond that. Okay, we know we've had an impact. Next time, if another country decides to invade another country, can we withstand those shocks, and what measures are we putting in place now that we have the intel that, okay, this is what happens? Next time, what are we going to do different to make sure?
See, the only thing we have done with Russia-Ukraine war is to make excuses with it. We started off with COVID. You ask about, in fact, we started off with free SHS. I remember hosting too many of people in government, and you ask them, why is the economy going south in 2020, and they tell you free SHS. You remember that? Each time you ask them about NHIS, free SHS. You ask them about everything was free SHS. Now we know what the situation is. Then we move to COVID-19. Then everything you ask is about COVID-19. Then now Russia-Ukraine comes in. Then we now move to it. Not so long ago, a deputy education minister who has now apologized.
That's right.
For the comments she made that the finance minister is guiltless and that it is teachers who must be blamed for. She has come to apologize. I'm sure she had good advice to come and apologize. But that was even a sorry. So for me, the tendency to say, oh, everybody else is guilty, but we who are managing the thing, we are not guilty, is painful. It's very, very painful that we sit here. There are producers on the show. There are presenters on the show. There's a DJ on the show. There are social media persons on the show. Something goes wrong. We say, oh, all of us, we are not part. Let's blame the cleaner who is not on the show. That's what the government consistently has done with us. And that's where the pain for me comes from. The citizens, the pain of the citizens. Because it doesn't look like the government is willing to not to have another dance with the IMF. The government is willing now to have another dance with the IMF.
That's the signal that you picked.
Yes.
That we're not ready to cut that apron string anytime
But
soon.
if we're ready to cut the ties, and we say we are broke, we don't have money, we would have spent monies at Asin that we cannot account for. We're sharing 200 CDs, one Charles Opoku note to everybody. What are you talking to me about?
Yes, Russia-Ukraine war, yes. But we have been crying more than the bereaved. Because have you heard in the news or read somewhere that the Ukrainians are crying, the economy is, in shut? No, seriously. I think that we have overly put our woes on the Russia-Ukraine war. And talking about being self-sufficient, we know whatever we got to do to become a self-sufficient country.
That's right.
You cannot be totally independent, but at least you can build your economy to a certain level that you'll be okay, even when such strategies or things happen. But we are not ready to do that. We know that we need to add value to our raw product. We know that we need to industrialize. We've heard Dr. Baumia saying that Alan Cash, John Mama, all the leaders of this country, they are very much aware